Every winter survival product you've ever bought was designed by someone who never spent a single night below zero without a backup plan. The Rocky Mountain trappers of the 1820s and 1830s spent entire winters at -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Not a weekend, not a survival course, entire seasons with no fireplace, no insulated walls, no synthetic fill, no thermostat. Just animals, fat, and a knowledge system so complete it made central heating irrelevant. They didn't endure the cold, they solved it. And the solution has been sitting in plain sight for 200 years. Picture a morning in December 1834, somewhere along the forks of the Snake River in what is now southern Idaho. The ground is frozen solid. The air sits at somewhere around -20, maybe colder. The sky is that flat. Colorless white, that means more snow is coming before nightfall. And in a camp of 60 men, trappers, scouts, traders, nobody is panicking. Nobody is running to a woodpile, desperately trying to heat a stone building. Nobody has a building at all. One of those 60 men is Osborne Russell, 20 years old, keeping the journal that historians would later call one of the most precise first-hand accounts of Rocky Mountain life ever written. He records the scene simply: whites and Native Americans gathered together in the valley, horses sheltering in the timber, men wrapped in buffalo robes, the cold acknowledged and then set aside as a fact of life rather than a crisis to be managed. Russell and the men around him would spend the next 4 months in that valley, in shelters you could build in an afternoon, or sleeping on hides that cost nothing but the labor of preparation, eating food that generated enough internal heat to make the cold almost irrelevant. Here is what strikes you when you actually read Russell's journal. These men were not suffering. They were not white-knuckling it through some ordeal. They were living, working, reading aloud to each other, repairing gear, making moccasins. They called it Rocky Mountain College. Jim Bridger's brigade, 60 men, 0 fireplace walls, 0 insulation ratings printed on a tag. And they came through winter after winter in some of the most extreme cold in North America. So the question that should be sitting in your mind right now is a simple one. What did they actually know? What was the system? Because there was absolutely a system, and you've never been told what it was. Before we go further, drop a comment below. Have you ever been in serious cold and found that the modern gear you trusted completely let you down? Tell us what happened, because what you're about to discover will change how you see every winter product you've ever purchased. Now think about what we actually sell people for cold weather today. You walk into an outdoor retailer and you're looking at a wall of synthetic fill jackets rated to temperatures that assume you're standing still, dry, and not sweating. The insulation inside is almost certainly polyester, a petroleum derivative that compresses easily, loses its loft within a few seasons of heavy use, and when it gets wet from perspiration from the inside, which it will, becomes a cold, wet shell sitting against your skin. The price tag says $250. The country of origin is not somewhere cold. Compare that to what Osborne Russell was wearing: brain-tan buckskin shirt and leggings, a capote, a knee-length hooded coat cut from a single Hudson's Bay wool blanket, closed with a sash, requiring no buttons, no zippers, no specialized manufacturing, buffalo hide moccasins stuffed with dried grass or loose hair, made by Native American women at a fraction of the cost of anything in that outdoor retailer. And over everything, when conditions turned genuinely brutal, a full buffalo robe. The layering system had no brand name. It had no logo. It had been refined over thousands of years. And here's where it gets remarkable. A 1995 study published in the journal Climate Research, testing traditional Inuit caribou skin clothing against the best modern military Arctic gear and commercial expedition systems, found that for the areas that actually kill people, the feet and the face, the traditional hide clothing significantly outperformed both modern systems. Not matched, outperformed, at -28 degrees Celsius with wind. The research team wasn't expecting that result. Here's the part that should make you angry. The outdoor industry has known for decades that synthetic insulation underperforms natural materials at the extremes, particularly in moisture-laden conditions and on the extremities. They kept selling you polyester jackets anyway, because polyester is cheap to manufacture, easy to standardize, and creates a product you need to replace every few years when the loft degrades. A properly made buffalo robe lasts 20 to 30 years. A brain-tan buckskin shirt, properly smoked, stays supple and functional after decades. You can't build a subscription model around something that lasts a lifetime. And here is the exoneration, because it matters. If you have bought gear that failed you in serious cold, that failure was not your fault. You were sold products optimized for the store, for the catalog photo, for the temperature rating printed on the tag. You were not sold a system, you were sold a product. The mountain men had a system, and that distinction is everything. Let us go deeper into what that system actually was, layer by layer, because every component of it operated on physics and biology that modern materials science has largely confirmed and sometimes failed to replicate. On layer 1, the buffalo robe and what fur actually does to cold. The assumption most people carry into this is that fur works like a blanket. It traps heat by being thick. The reality is more interesting. In 2014, physicist Priscilla Simonis at the University of Namur in Belgium published research in the journal Optics Express demonstrating that radiation plays a far larger role in fur's thermal performance than anyone had previously quantified. Individual hairs act as radiative shields, backscattering infrared light. In practical terms, reflecting your own body heat back toward your body rather than allowing it to radiate outward into the air. Think of it like a mirror inside your clothing, not a thick wall, a mirror. That is why a polar bear maintains a body temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit in negative 40-degree air with only 2 inches of fur. If that fur worked purely by conduction, you would need over 2 feet of conventional rock wool insulation to achieve the same effect. Bison fur has a dual-layer architecture that mountain men, following Native American teaching, used with precision. The underfur, fine, dense, crimped fibers packed tightly near the skin, locks dead air into an interlocking matrix. Still air has a thermal conductivity of roughly 0.024 watts per meter Kelvin, making it one of the best insulators that exists. The guard hairs above it, longer and straight, form a mechanical windbreak and shed moisture. The winter robe, taken specifically from a bison killed in late fall or early winter, when the underfur was at maximum density, was not merely warm, it was engineered. And the mountain man who slept with that robe folded double beneath him and laid over him had essentially wrapped himself in 2 layers of one of the most thermally sophisticated natural materials on the planet. If you're finding this valuable, hit the like button now. This is the kind of knowledge that took 200 years to bury, and we're digging it back up. Layer 2, pemmican, and the metabolic furnace. Here's where it gets interesting. Because the food system was inseparable from the cold survival system, you cannot understand how these men stayed warm without understanding what they were burning internally. Russell, Zenas Leonard, and the journals of Warren Ferris all document an overwhelmingly meat-based diet, centered on buffalo, and specifically on fat. When trappers made a fresh kill, they consumed the liver raw immediately. They drank blood. They prized the intestines, stuffed with partially digested grasses, as a delicacy that almost certainly prevented scurvy. And they made pemmican. The word comes from the Crypemican, from pimi, fat, grease. Production was exact. Buffalo meat, dried on elevated racks, then pounded to a fine powder, then mixed with rendered tallow at roughly 50 pounds of lean meat to 40 pounds of melted fat, packed into rawhide bags and sealed with more tallow. The result delivered approximately 3,500 calories per pound. The Hudson's Bay Company, which understood logistics in cold climates better than any institution of its era, consumed an estimated 45 tons of pemmican per year by the 1790s. Robert Peary, who brought it to the Arctic in the early 20th century, called it the most satisfying food he knew. His expedition teams lived on half a pound of it twice per day. Layer 3, the shelter system, and what the Crow and Shoshone actually taught. This is the part the history books almost always get wrong because they frame mountain man survival as an individual achievement. It was not. It was a technology transfer. And without it, most of these men would have died in their first winter. Jim Bridger married 3 Native American women across his life, Flathead and twice Shoshone, including a daughter of the great Chief Washakie. He was described by contemporaries as someone who had internalized native ways to a degree that set him apart even from other experienced trappers. John Coulter lived among the Crow for extended periods and traveled approximately 1,000 miles on foot across one winter and spring, carrying a pack of just 30 pounds, a feat made possible by everything the Crow had taught him about reading the land, selecting campsites, and moving through cold terrain without generating the catastrophic sweat that kills men in winter faster than the cold itself. The Shoshone's winter strategy, documented by ethnographer Demetri Shimkin, centered on choosing sheltered valleys. They're wintering in communities of 300 to 400 people. Collective body heat matters enormously. And constructing teepees from a minimum of 10 buffalo hides over a framework of 12 long and 20 short lodgepole pine poles. The physics of a teepee are extraordinary. The hide cover seals against wind, while an interior liner traps a layer of dead air between itself and the outer cover, creating double wall insulation. A ground-level air gap feeds the central fire's updraft, and the smoke hole at the apex vents combustion gases while maintaining a convective cycle that pushes warm air down the walls. Documented accounts suggest a properly constructed teepee maintained interior temperatures approaching 74 degrees Fahrenheit in conditions far below zero outside. That is not primitive technology. That is engineering. The indigenous women who prepared clothing, dressed hides, made pemmican, and constructed shelters were not support staff. They were the engineers of the entire system. Montana Women's History Archives state plainly that Native wives gave fur traders invaluable ties to the land and tribes, and that without them, the learning curve for surviving in this landscape was essentially unsurvivable. The Dean guide Matanabe said it directly to Hudson's Bay explorer Samuel Hearne in 1771. There is no traveling any considerable distance in this country without the women. He was right. The mountain men who lived longest knew it. Layer 4, bear grease, tallow, and the substance that protected everything. Bear grease was the universal lubricant and protectant of the frontier. Lewis and Clark consumed gallons of it. Mountain men carried it in their possible bags as standard equipment. Applied to firearms, it prevented corrosion and kept the mechanisms functioning in freeze-thaw cycles. Applied to leather moccasins, it waterproofed them against snow and ice melt. Applied to skin, particularly the face, ears, and hands, it created a hydrophobic barrier that reduced evaporative heat loss and provided a thin but measurable layer of insulating material directly against the skin in the areas most vulnerable to wind. French explorer Charlevoix documented watching Potawatomi people grease themselves with animal fat as protection against sun, cold, and insects. This was not vanity, and it was not primitive superstition. Fat has low thermal conductivity relative to water. Subcutaneous fat in living animals functions as structural insulation for exactly this reason. The application of animal fat to exposed skin was the frontier equivalent of the modern windproof membrane, cheaper, biodegradable, and obtainable everywhere there was wildlife. The men who skipped this practice were the ones who came in with frostbitten ears. The ones who followed native practice did not. So, why did any of this get abandoned? Why are we buying polyester jackets when the physics clearly favor natural materials at the extremes? 3 reasons, and they all come down to the same thing. Scale. First, speed. Brain tanning a single buffalo hide takes days of skilled labor. Smoking it takes additional time. A synthetic fill jacket can be manufactured in a factory in hours. Second, cost. A Native American women who possessed the hide preparation skills that made the entire system possible were not paid for their labor in any meaningful historical sense. And even setting that aside, skilled hide preparation cannot be industrialized without losing the qualities that make it functional. Third, synthetic alternatives arrived at precisely the moment industrial scale demanded them. Nylon and polyester, both petroleum derivatives, became commercially available in the mid-20th century. They were cheap, consistent, mass-producible. The outdoor industry adopted them wholesale, and the knowledge of what they were replacing quietly faded. The hidden cost was dependency. The modern cold-weather consumer cannot repair their gear in the field. They cannot replace it from available materials. When the Gore-Tex delaminates, and it will, typically within 3 to 5 years of hard use, there is no wilderness fix. When synthetic insulation loses its loft, you buy another jacket. The Mountain Man system had no such fragility. Every material in it came from the land. Every skill needed to maintain it could be performed with the tools already on your person. It was not a product. It was a complete and self-renewing ecology of knowledge. So, what can you actually do with this? 3 options, ordered from easiest to most involved. If you want to start immediately, the simplest entry point is wool. Not synthetic fleece, actual wool, as heavy as you can find. Boiled wool, wool blanket material. Traditional army surplus wool. Wool behaves more like animal fur than any modern synthetic. It insulates when wet, and it manages moisture actively. It does not require replacement on a commercial schedule. Seek out military surplus wool blankets and coats at army surplus stores or estate sales. A World War II-era wool field coat will outlast a decade of synthetic parkas. Look for the words boiled wool or fulled wool on labels. These indicate the material has been processed to maximum density and wind resistance. If you want to go further, learn to make pemmican. The process is straightforward. Slice lean red meat, beef or venison works as well as buffalo, into thin strips and dry it completely, either in a low oven at 170 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 to 8 hours, or in a purpose-built dehydrator until it snaps rather than bends. Pound it to a coarse powder. A wooden mallet and a hard surface is all you need. Render tallow from beef suet by simmering it slowly and straining out the solids, then combine the meat powder and liquid tallow at roughly equal parts by weight. Add dried berries if available. Pour into molds or bags and allow to cool completely. Store in a cool, dark location. It will remain stable for months and in cold conditions, considerably longer. 3 ounces of it in a coat pocket is an emergency heat source you can eat. At minimum, if you do nothing else, learn to identify the single most critical failure point in your current cold weather kit. Moisture management. Check your sleeping bag. If it is down, know that when it gets wet, it becomes nearly useless. Check your base layer. If it is cotton, understand that cotton soaks up sweat and holds it against your skin, accelerating heat loss dramatically. What outdoors people accurately call death cloth. Replace your base layer with merino wool. That single change, which costs roughly the same as a synthetic alternative, moves you meaningfully closer to what the mountain men had, a material that actively manages moisture rather than holding it against you. Osborne Russell was not a primitive. He was not lucky. He was not superhuman. He was a 20-year-old man who had learned from people who had lived in the most extreme cold on this continent for thousands of years how to turn that cold from a death sentence into a manageable condition. He spent 9 winters in the Rocky Mountains, kept precise records of everything, and came home. The knowledge was never lost. It was traded away, exchanged for the convenience of a product that could be boxed and sold and replaced on a commercial schedule, rather than a system that lasted a lifetime and could be rebuilt from nothing if it had to be. Subscribe to this channel because we are not done digging. We are uncovering the practical knowledge of people who solve problems your modern world has forgotten how to solve. Tell us in the comments, what forgotten skill or survival system do you want us to investigate next? Because the answer to whatever you're dealing with in the cold, in the wild, in the unprepared moments of your life, it already exists. Someone already figured it out. We just have to find it.